Often scientists just work alone, but in order to amplify your message and create champions, you've got to go on a journey with people.
We're seeing a number of stresses across the whole of the Great Barrier Reef, largely as a result of climate change. In the Whitsundays, one of the major issues we saw was Cyclone Debbie back in 2017.
Cyclone Debbie smashed the coral in the Whitsundays. Really strong winds up to 250 kilometres an hour, seas up to 12 metres, devastated the prime tourism sites on the north side of Hook and Hamilton Islands. We surveyed those reefs several months after Cyclone Debbie, and large, massive coral bommies were overturned and live coral cover was around 1%. So we started a discussion with the tourism industry, who rely heavily on a healthy reef. Post-Cyclone Debbie, underwater tourists were disappointed. And we said, what can we collectively do to help the reef and the tourism experience? And we came up with an innovative project called Whitsunday Reef Recovery and Public Art, which was basically trying to plan, install and research some underwater art pieces and some coral gardening reef restoration to help the reef ecologically, but also the tourism industry socially and economically. Replanting coral can be simple. It's like gardening underwater, where you collect a bit of coral, you grow it in a nursery, and then when it's large enough and healthy enough, you plant it back on the reef. The success rate of coral reef restoration has recently been measured with a global literature review, and it's pretty good. 60 to 80% of corals survive replanting after a year. We put out to the tourism industry an opportunity to come out and work with us on research and planting coral, and they jumped at it.
We are in Manta Ray Bay on the eastern side of Hook Passage. We are planting coral. Manta Ray Bay is special from the diverse fish life, from the hump-headed Maori wrasses, the giant trevallies to the tiny little yellowtail fusiliers.
Manta Ray Bay, a massive tourist destination in the Whitsundays, and it was kind of identified as a place that we really want to look after. Amazing fish diversity here.
The team has been working with tourism operators, getting them involved in the physical process of outplanting over 600 corals from the coral nurseries onto the surrounding reef.
Reef restoration projects like these are generally small scale and difficult to implement across wide areas. Access to the reef is also a challenge, and tourism operators are out there every day showing the reef to visitors. They're the eyes on the reef, so to speak. So we travel out there, do our work, and we might only visit once or twice a month, but they're out there every day and they can keep an eye on things and make sure that the project is progressing.
We had an amazing day at Manta Ray Bay today. We planted the most corals we've ever outplanted in a day, over 500 corals from our coral nurseries out onto the natural reef to help build the resilience of the Great Barrier Reef.
Well done, thank you, bloody awesome.
Oh, it's been great.
It was brilliant to see these experienced divers, these new divers, work with us and just pointing out the fish that they know and looking at their favourite bommies and seeing us collectively heal them and help them.
These projects are not a panacea for declining reef health. We can maybe improve the situation in small locations like Manta Ray Bay, but the real change is going to come from implementing broad-scale, widespread change on a planetary, global level.
Research and monitoring at Manta Ray Bay and the Whitsundays is really important, as coral gardening is relatively new to Australia. We're currently working out how research at these important tourism sites can best support management in the Great Barrier Reef.
Being part of projects like this make you feel incredible, because it makes you feel like you've helped, makes you feel involved, it makes you feel like there's hope.
Most important reason for getting tourist operators involved is they can feel empowered So they go out there, they plant a coral, and I can guarantee you that every time they go back there, they'll be checking on that coral, taking photos of it, sharing it, and telling people this is the Great Barrier Reef. It's under pressure, it's stressed, and we're doing what we can, and we need to empower everyone else in everyday lives to do what they can to reduce or mitigate the effects of climate change, and that's going to help support the resilience of the Great Barrier Reef.